Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Blitz Reacts. Today we're going to be responding to a propaganda piece by the Creative Society, this time about something called the neutrino energy cube. Let's watch.
It will be in history books. The world's first fuel-free generator launches mass production.
Okay, so first of all, there's no such thing as fuel-free energy. This is just another perpetuum mobile, another perpetual motion machine, free energy. It's never real, but let's keep going.
In 6 years, a huge number of people will stop paying for electricity. And
So the Creative Society is a cult. Let me show you how I know. Their original name was Alat Ra, or Alatra. They're a cult. They started in Eastern Europe. They have some weird anti-Semitic stuff. They're an apocalyptic cult. And their current claim, which is being astroturfed on TikTok live streams, is that the world is going to end soon because of some sort of spiritual climate change. Not human-caused, but something spiritual. It's all nonsense. Anyway, this person is making a promise that in 6 years, the neutrino energy cube will be providing free energy to basically everybody. But of course, as is typically the case with the Creative Society, it's a lie. Let's keep watching.
this will launch a new revolution in the energy sector. This cube, which you see on the screen now, provides electricity for free.
Okay, so again, no such thing as free electricity. Now, what's being talked about here, as I mentioned before, is the neutrino energy cube. Let's keep watching.
It doesn't need any sun, wind, water, or anything at all. It works and that's it. It simply picks up invisible radiation and converts it into electricity.
Okay, let's talk about how this thing is supposed to work. So the Neutrino Energy company is one of these very, I should use the word astroturfed again, companies, startups that isn't going to produce anything. Let me show you. So here's their website, Neutrino Energy of the Future. And, you know, I have all of these big sciencey sounding words that make it sound like that they're a serious company doing serious science and changing things. Here's that cube again. But let's actually go look at what powers their cube. The power cube. So this is the neutrino voltaic. So here they have some words. It's a technology used to convert the thermal Brownian motion of graphene atoms and the energy of the surrounding fields of invisible radiation, including neutrinos, into the electric current using a multi-layered graphene-based nanomaterial. Okay, so there are a few problems with this. First, there's only really two invisible radiation fields that are present on Earth. There's basically electromagnetic waves, like radio waves, infrared radiation, things like that. And those, some of them come from the sun, we produce some of them come from the moon, the stars, whatever. And then there's neutrinos. Now, neutrinos are a whole different ballgame. I'll talk about them in a minute. But first, if you're going to be capturing infrared or radio waves, it's basically just a photovoltaic cell. That's not what they're claiming here, because there's just not enough infrared radiation, radio wave radiation to produce reasonable amounts of power. They're making a specific claim about neutrinos, which is why their website is, and their company is called Neutrino Energy. Now, here's the thing about neutrinos. Neutrinos are a subatomic particle that behaves in a really strange way. They're kind of like a chargeless cousin of the electron, and the sun emits a lot of them. In fact, so many of them that billions of them pass through every square centimeter of the Earth per second. Now, you might think that that means that you absolutely could use that to harness for energy, but it's a little bit trickier than that because the pesky law of physics get in the way. Now, what I'm getting at is that neutrinos basically don't interact. They don't have charge, so you can't make them bounce off of things. You can't absorb them in the traditional way that you would an electron. If you fire an electron at something, it's pretty easy to extract energy from it because it'll bump into stuff and heat something up and maybe you can extract energy that way. Neutrinos, on the other hand, only interact via the weak nuclear force, which is, as the name implies, very weak, which means that the probability of an interaction between a neutrino and, say, your detector or your energy collector is very small. The number that's given around the internet all the time is something like you need a light year's worth of lead in order for the probability of the neutrino to interact with that lead to be 50%. So what we're getting at here is that neutrinos basically aren't going to interact with this tiny little neutrino energy cube at all. You won't get a single neutrino stopping in there and depositing its energy. It just won't happen. Let's keep watching.
For understanding, one such cube produces as much electricity as is enough to provide one family of 4 to 5 people.
Okay, so here's a specific claim about how much energy will be produced. Now, we've already established that these cubes won't produce any energy from neutrinos because not even a single neutrino will stop in any given cube. However, let's just throw aside the physics and then just ask, what if they could through some magic technology, absorb all of the neutrinos? Well, we can figure out how much energy we get from the sun and neutrinos. Now, the numbers that I've seen, and I'll show you right here, the numbers that I've seen say that it's something like 3% of the total energy radiated from the sun is in the form of neutrinos. Now, we get about 1,370 watts per square meter of energy from the sun in the form of electromagnetic radiation. That's a number I happen to know off the top of my head. So 3% of that is about 40 watts per square meter. What that means is that if you were able to absorb the energy from all of the neutrinos passing through a cross-sectional area of 1 square meter on the surface of the Earth, you would collect about 40 watts of energy, or 40 watts of power, which is 40 joules of energy per second. That's enough to power about 4 LED bulbs. Certainly not enough to power a home. So even if it were true that they could collect all of the energy from the neutrinos, there's not a chance in hell that they would be able to power a home with just one of these tiny little cube things. That looked like it was a few centimeters across at most. Anyway, let's keep watching and see what more propaganda is being spread.
Neutrino Energy, the company that produces these cubes, has agreed with the South Korean authorities, and construction of a huge plant will begin this year.
So I looked into this. I don't have the website up I could show you, but I looked into this. The only place I can see this claim is on the Creative Society's Instagram page. I didn't actually find any news reports talking about the South Korean government making a landmark deal with this new energy company. I don't think there's anything about that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the South Korean government wasn't even aware of this agreement. That seems to be the case with these kinds of things. Let's keep watching.
The project is also supported by major investors from Korea, and by 2029, the annual production of such cubes will reach 30 gigawatts.
No, they won't. You're not going to be able to produce any power from these.
To understand, 30 gigawatts of electricity is 4 times more than a nuclear power plant produces.
Okay, that doesn't mean it's going to work.
Moreover, a plan is being developed to build a large factory in China.
Citation needed.
Neutrino Power Cube has also received licenses in a number of other countries. Do you want to start implementing this in our countries as well? Then we need to make sure that everyone knows about it. Speak up and check the documentary about this on Creative Society channel. This will be
Okay, so obviously this is a scam or a propaganda piece trying to get people to go watch their documentary about some fake perpetual energy device. I wouldn't buy it. There are some patents, but you can get patents for anything. This is just another piece of the Creative Society doing more mainstream science is lying to you, and if, in a few years, if anybody remembers this, they'll just deny it. Anyway, this has been Dr. Blitz Reacts. I'll see you next time.